My husband, with whom we have been together for 8 years, behaved disgustingly in the hospital. A year ago, I fell from a high height. I didn't hit my head, but the force of the fall caused neck and brain injuries. Um, I originally went to urgent care, but after I told them the distance, they urged me to go to the ER because the potential of massive trauma was very high. My spouse of 8 years and me went to ER with our preschooler. In the ER room, multiple staff members came toward me quickly, putting me in a neck brace, touching different areas of my body, saying, "Can you feel this? Can you feel that?" They thought I had broken my neck or that I had an aneurysm from the force of the fall. It was extremely traumatizing. They told me I needed a CT scan with contrast to make sure my neck or blood vessels weren't broken. As we waited for them to get me for the scan, I was crying. Our kiddo was on me asking, "Mommy, what's wrong?" My partner was on TikTok. This was so hurtful for me. So I asked him, "Do you need to be on your phone right now?" He got angry at me, saying if it were him, he would get mad at me over this. And what is the point of worrying if we don't know if anything is wrong? He also said all he could think about was how hungry he was because he had skipped breakfast, even though I had made some. He had me DoorDash burgers to the hospital. I will say he had probably gone 3 days W/O his antidepressants. Ooh, it's been a year, but I can't forgive him. I have lingering cognitive effects, including POTS and daily neck pain. Almost all sex has ceased, which he is very resentful for. He says if had been him, he wouldn't have minded. I told him that if it were him, I would have never behaved in such a way. I just can't forget him laughing at TikTok while I cried in a neck brace, wondering if I had an aneurysm I could drop from at any time. That is how my grandmother died, which he knows about. I can't forget him yelling at me that he was so hungry he couldn't think about anything else. I just can't help but ask myself, is that how a husband should behave when their wife, if potentially critically injured? Amio? I feel like the relationship was over in that moment. Why would I ever let into my body someone who had so little regard for me? ETA. One, I need to address a mistake I made. After some people asked if I was using my phone with a neck brace on, it made me realize that he was the one to order DoorDash. Sorry about that. I had a fresh brain injury and but he did yell at me and tell me that all he could think about was that he had skipped breakfast. My kiddo was lying on me watching TV because they were worried about me. Second, I don't need to go into the details of my accident, whether some of you believe the severity or not. He knew the severity. But also, he and I split up a week ago, though he is still here while looking for other housing. I ended it with him after many unhappy years, after realizing we have different values in life, values different enough that we can't both have the things we want in life. Saying everything out loud, ending it, finally brought up the pain that I have been pushing down for so long. So, this wasn't a question of whether I should leave him. I was more wanting to see if my own hurt over previous incidents was clouding my judgment. Thanks for all your opinions and the kind words. Everyone will be happier in the long run, though it hurts so bad right now. Story two, first legit rejection, but a valuable lesson learned. Met this really great guy on Hinge. Nerdy, smart, compassionate, awesome dresser, really cute. Our first date was at a coffee shop and we hit it off. We talked for 2 hours before realizing we each had other plans to get to. As we were saying goodbye, he asked me out on a second date the following week to a science museum. My heart skipped a beat and I accepted. Over the next few days, we'd text sporadically. He takes a while to respond back. From what he's told me, he's got a lot on his plate, so I don't blame him for taking a few hours or sometimes a day to respond. The texts ranged from "Hope you're having a good day" to "Andor is an awesome show, and let me tell you why." There was subtle and overt flirting going on as well from both sides. The next day was really fun. The museum was great. The conversation was engaging. He seemed to be having a great time telling me about the different pieces we were walking past, the occasional flirting and physical contact here and there from both of us. Uh, we decided to head to a nearby burger place on foot and had a pretty deep discussion on the way about family, trauma, our siblings, stuff you don't bring up with a stranger, you know? I was touched he was comfortable enough with me to share. And so I shared as well. It was surprising to hear we had similar stories. And as though we were in a rom-com, it started pouring rain. I'd brought an umbrella with me just in case, so I battled against the gusts and held it out like a shield to protect him and his not at all rainy day outfit from being drenched. Mm. We ate, he placed a hand on my leg, we shared food, we talked, we hugged goodbye. It was the best date I'd been on ever. 2 days later, I text him asking him if he'd like to go to dinner with me. I'm a dork, so I asked him as though I was a late 19th century English suitor writing an invitation letter to his sweetheart. He must have gotten a kick out of it because a few hours later, he responds back the same way and accepts. I text him the time and day. He doesn't respond. I text him again the day I had suggested for our date. A few hours later, he responds with, "Sounds great." An hour later, he texts me, "Can we reschedule for tomorrow? Forgot I had a deadline today." I say, "That's cool." Next day, I text him in the afternoon to confirm he's still available. Nothing. At this point, I'm kind of annoyed, not necessarily at him, but including him for sure. Not entirely sure why, though. I know he has a lot on his plate. He's been pretty clear about that. But also, I declined plans with a close friend that was visiting from out of town that weekend so I could go on a date with this guy. First on Saturday, now on Sunday. Around 3 in the afternoon, it occurs to me, even if he responds right now confirming, I don't think I'd be able to enjoy myself on our date. I'd be too preoccupied with why he took so long to confirm. My head would be buzzing with self-doubt. Was he hedging on other plans? Was he not interested but too nice to say? Does he actually have the time commitment to even try a relationship? I finally texted him saying it's probably best to cancel because I don't want to add more to his plate and that he can reach out if things lighten up for him. An hour later, he responds with a brief, that's probably for the best. I'm overwhelmed right now. Sorry for not communicating better. So that's that. I made excuses for him. Um, until I talked to my sister, who told me something that made everything click. No one is busier than a man or woman who is not into you. And it's what people use being busy as an excuse when they don't want to hurt feelings or they want to explore options while you're still on the line. Didn't realize how much I loved my sister until that moment. So I'm dealing with my first rejection, not because no one's ever rejected me before, but because I've never put myself in a situation to be rejected. I don't ask guys out on dates. Too risky, lol. But this guy was worth it. I could see a future, you know? You know, what's going on with him could be something big, could be he's just not into me enough to make time, could be he's genuinely overwhelmed, but he's not communicating that. And that's where I'm drawing the line. I deserve better than to have to guess or make rationalizations. I deserve someone that is comfortable communicating because honestly, I'm tired of the guesswork. I'm too old for that. And I did make sure to let him know in my last text that I would love to see him again and to let me know if slash when he's free again. Story 3 for threatening my husband with a divorce after he sneak fed me meat. Am I 25F the a-hole for threatening my husband 27M with a divorce after he sneaked meat into my food? I'm a vegetarian and my husband used to be a vegetarian too, but he changed his lifestyle about a year ago. This isn't for any health reasons. We simply didn't like the thought of eating an animal. That's where we now tend to clash when it comes to dinner and deciding where to eat, depending on whether there are any non-meat options. Other than that, it's never really been an issue since we take turns cooking, allowing us to add whatever we want to the meals. So imagine my surprise when my husband sneak fed me meat in what was supposed to be a vegetarian burger during dinner. I found out because after I finished eating, he looked me in the eyes and said he had given me real meat because it was the first thing that changed his mind. I wanted to vomit, not just because it was meat, but because it was my husband doing this to me. And suddenly he thinks I will change my way of eating just because he did. Wow. The next day, I was so thankful, and I just was so dying to Ben's laps. And out of anger, I told him I regretted marrying him and that he shouldn't be surprised if I divorced him after that. I was mad, and I know you say things you don't mean when you're angry. I don't want my marriage to end because I still love him, and I wouldn't have made this post if he hadn't moved back in with his parents. His things are still here, which keeps me hopeful that he just thought I needed space or something. I said that to scare him into not doing it again. I don't feel like I need to apologize as much as he does, but I still want to know if saying I wanted a divorce when I clearly didn't mean it makes me a massive a-hole. Story 4, if I end my marriage over recovering from surgery. Um, okay, I will try to make this make sense. Just having a rough time. My husband and I have almost 11 years together, 2 of them married. We have overcome a lot of issues, like his family hating me. BC, I'm not from the same country and religion and not willing to change what I am. Currently, I am recovering from surgery, mainly done in my stomach area, so basically breathing hurts. I knew after COVID, my husband is less than likely to be helpful, so after 5 days, he kind of dropped off. He had updated his suppliers for MRE cards. Who 5 days completely blew COVID in December 2018. So he had a previously updated, I was forced to do more for myself and also start cooking dinner to avoid more Uber Eats, which hasn't done my recovery well. The other day, while I was in a good amount of pain and feeling aches and fever coming on, he said he made dinner reservations in the city near us. He said we could drive in our metro and walk, which he then said, "Ooh, yeah, you just had surgery. We can drive." Okay. I clearly said I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not in the mood for a late dinner and not feeling well. Why didn't you ask me? So skipping ahead, we move forward, and while we're both under the weather, I said, let's order dinner since we're both too sick, but no burgers or fried chicken since that's all you ever suggest. So he suggested Burger King or wings. When I shot both down, he said, okay, CPK, then started a ramble, which he doesn't when he's super in the clouds, from gummies, about his history with CPK. I put a stop to it, BCK. I simply can't hear the bullshit anymore and responds with, am insufferable and walks out. We haven't spoken in 2 days now. BC, when we attempted to, he started his usual gaslighting. Um, BC, we tried to work on in couples therapy a year ago. I'm considering leaving. BC, how can I have children with a person who can't even help me in a time of need after a few days? There's more to our situation. It might sound silly, but this is sadly a buildup. But am I overreacting? Story 5, gross habits. Been with my boyfriend just coming up on a year and am very much in love. I'm also very attracted to him, and sex is as great as it was when the new relationship energy was flowing. Now that we are finally in our flow, I'm discovering some gross habits that are starting to keep me up at night. Keep in mind, he is on the ASD spectrum, so not great with cues. Recently, he's become very comfortable picking his nose while we watch TV together. I'm talking an hours long dig fest, no tissue, just balling them up and presumably letting them fall to the floor. He's always been a bit too comfortable with me, early days farting and nail clipping near me. But I could look past that, however. The nose picking is something new I'm struggling to handle. I'm a very, very clean person and yes, pick my nose, but in private with tissue with a good hand wash to follow. Um, what bothers me most about this is that he's very physically affectionate and also loves to cook for me. The other day, he made us burgers, and I watched him roll the patties in his hands and nearly passed out thinking about those fingers in my food. He also recently has a pest problem in his kitchen, so sticky fingers plus ants, and it's like a death sentence for me. I ate the burger, but had to distract myself from what I was putting into my mouth by inside saying, "Heat kills germs, heat kills germs." Last night, when he came to bed, I usually float with his touch, but instead, I was horrified at those fingers touching me after I witnessed an almost full day of those same digits up inside his brain. I had brought him a tissue earlier, and he commented if he was grossing me out. Yes, tissue was used briefly only. How do I address this without embarrassing him? It's his home. I live with family, so I feel weird demanding he handle the pests or not use his floor and couch as a tissue. But I honestly can't imagine eating there anymore, and cooking is something he loves to do for us. I don't even want to cook there, solving one problem, until the pests are handled. I asked him, but he said it's normal in the summer in an old apartment. I was with him last summer and never saw them, so it's definitely a new problem. His house is relatively clean and has a monthly cleaning person. So, uh, pests are likely from occasional dishes left out or his plants, which are over the counter. I love this man. What do I do? God knows what's happening on my end of the sofa when I'm not there. TLDR, how to address nose picking tissueless boyfriend. Story 6, situationship. I, 23F, have been seeing a guy, 26M, I met on Tinder, for about 6, 7 months now, since mid November. Started off casual. I said I only wanted friends, and he agreed and said the same. I don't have many friends to begin with, so my focus was really only on him. We hung out all throughout the first month, almost every day, and the topic of relationship was always initiated by me and quickly shut down by him, claiming he's not ready, but still having me over every day. Of course, I understood why at the time we were both dealing with different things in our lives, but we always had time for each other's company at the end of the day. Not to mention, I've witnessed a lot of things not most would stick around for, as said by him, but I care for him. I see him the following 5 months, and things had been fine. I felt like our relationship was going well. I'd visit him at work and spend most of my time with him, nonstop talking slash texting and always being around each other. The longest we had been away was 3 days. Until recently, the last time I saw him was April 13th. He went through a relapse and wanted time to recover, and I respected that. Except last time something like that happened, I was there within minutes, so I could be there for him, doing what I thought he'd do for me. I didn't see him for the entire week, and it may not seem like much, but I was used to seeing him every other night, and I was hoping he'd just tell me to come over one of the days, but I was just trying to not seem clingy, but we were still texting each other like normal. Till 19, I was texting him like normal, and he seemed to be having a very busy day. I was under the impression that he was caught up with a million things, but it didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary. I was going through some family issues, and it all felt like it was piling onto my plate super suddenly. And I mentioned it to him that night and how I missed him a lot. He didn't reply until the next day and said it was because he was so drained from the previous day and that he was sorry for not being there for me. Later that day, same thing. I ask if things are okay with him. I'll be here if he needs me and that I'm worried. His replies were short and brief with the occasional Instagram reel. I also noticed he was posting more on his story and not opening or replying to me. And it just seemed to make the situation worse. In those 2 days, it started to get to me, and I mentioned it to a coworker who told me I was probably when she asked if we were dating, all I could really say was, "Yes, but not really." Her immediate response was, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You been with this guy for this long and you're not even dating?" I go over it with her, and she stopped me and told me I should go to see him when I get out of work. And at first, in my mind, I was already seeing him every other day before that and didn't think it would be weird. It was 4/20, and I assumed it would be a cute idea to go and spend some time with him anyway. Of course, I tried to let him know that I was gonna be there, but I wasn't getting any response back. That should have been my only sign not to go see him, but I still wanted to. I went, texted again, and still nothing. Called him about 4 times, the phone rang, but still nothing. Decided to bring him a burger and left it at his doorstep. I went home and cried to sleep because I felt like such a weirdo and that everything that led up to it was just a giant mistake. April 21st, he said he got home super drunk and told me he felt bad that I did that. I asked why he wasn't answering my calls or messages and said he was just drunk and wanted to home to sleep. I asked if he hated me, and he said, of course not, and that he'd never hate me. Same day, my coworker asked how it went, and I lied and said things were fine. He was just dealing with a lot. She immediately called bullshit and asked me what really happened, and I told her. She hugged me and told me that she was sorry for telling me to do that, but I let her know it was fine. Same day, same thing, not as many replies, posting stories, and I just felt like I was talking to myself at that point. I told him how I felt and how I wanna be there for him, but it's gotten to a point where I just feel like I mean absolutely nothing to him, but he only deflects and says it's just a hard time for him at the moment. It's now been basically an entire month, and I still haven't seen him. I tried to not think about it and even tried not replying to him, but I just can't bring myself to do that since we talk every day. When I notice he's replied, I drop everything I do so I don't miss an opportunity to talk to him. I will take it at face value, but my mind always goes to he's sick of me and he's probably someone new. Last night I saw a story of him and got very emotional, got high, got high and told him to just be honest. Again, I know we aren't dating, but I just want answers and at least an idea of where to go on from here. I miss him a lot and I express that to him a lot, and I just feel like I'm only making things worse. AIO. TLDR, met up with a guy, hung out with him for almost 6 months straight, and now seems like he's avoiding me, claims it's due to lack of self-esteem and going through a hard time. Haven't seen him in a month after seeing him every day for 6 months. Am I overreacting?